everyone, Chip Boaz here, and today on the Jazz Lowdown, we're going to be talking about a hot topic, AI in music. Now, I have to admit, I've been a little lethargic about this. I've used ChatGPT and it's fine, and I've listened to a lot of great people here on YouTube talk about AI and how it's affecting music. Rick Beato, Mary Spender, Alan Neely, Samurai Guitarists, they've all put out really great, thought-provoking pieces on AI and music. And, I've molded over, but I don't know. I don't feel totally pushed to jump into it. In fact, you know what? Let's hang on just a minute. I got to finish recording this track for a client, and then we'll get into the whole AI thing. All right, get out of here. We don't need you, you bum. Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing here? I'm gonna record a track. You've been fired. We got someone better to do this gig. What? What are you talking about? We don't need no stinking bass player. Logic can handle that gig. Oh. The new update, Logic 11, integrates the use of AI in several places, most notably in their session players, where Logic can create a very human-sounding drum track, a very human-sounding keyboard part, and a very human-sounding bass line. So, honestly, this really shouldn't surprise me. Logic and its younger sibling GarageBand have had the drummer feature for a long time, and you know what? It's been really great since it started out. I've used it a lot when I've been putting together tracks that were more kind of rock and funk bass. It sounds a lot more alive than a repeated MIDI track, and you know what? It uses great samples. It's sequenced in a way that is evolving and sounds like a person. It's really good. And then Logic introduced the AI mastering suite, which is the bomb. I have to say, I use it on a regular basis to master the tracks that I put up on social media, whether it's here on YouTube or somewhere else. And you know what? It is uncanny in the way it makes my tracks sound so much better. Certainly far better mastered than I could ever do on my own. Sounds okay. Sounds a lot better. So it was only logical that the next step was putting a keyboard component into the session musician feature and putting a bass component into that. I mean, what could be better for independent musicians who are putting everything together on their own than to be able to generate full rhythm section parts for their songs? It's pretty good. And I have to admit, it works really well. You simply put in the chord changes to the song along the timeline. Logic lets you enter any number of chords, ranging from the most basic triads to harmonically complex chords with upper extensions. It even offers up common chord progressions, so you can just throw together something that sounds like the latest Taylor Swift song very quickly. Then, once you do that, the bass and the keys follow the chords flawlessly. And I hate to say it, but they follow the chords somewhat creatively too. Sounds pretty good. Pretty easy. It's been programmed to really understand some popular styles and how you can take those popular styles from the very generic to the very interesting. And that's not all. It doesn't just create it, you can customize this stuff. For each instrument, you can choose a variety of genres and approaches within those genres. You can choose whether you want the session musician to play in a simple or complex way. You can change the amount of intensity the musician brings to the part. You can determine the amount of fills that the musician plays and how complex those fills will be. The keyboard player has lots of easily manipulatable options around the approach for each hand. The bass can play a line that only uses roots or uses most of the notes of the scale. It can even extend into the range of the 6-string bass. All of this, and you can even change between a number of high quality instrument samples. Overall, it's really very good. So it's time to reflect a little bit. If you were planning on doing a wealth of gigs recording for singer-songwriters or small independent musicians, you might want to start making a different plan right now. Because Logic session musicians are a great, cost-efficient, and quick way for those musicians to put together recordings that sound really good. And unfortunately, they don't need you to do that. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? There are much more sophisticated programs taking advantage of AI to basically replace musicians. And they're doing it more quickly and at a higher quality than even Logic is. The thing about Logic is this is a very widely used program, and it puts these AI tools in hands around the world. Session drummers already in GarageBand, but just wait, session bassist and session keyboard player will be there soon. That's just going to make this universally used. And that's scary. That's something to think about. That's something that will affect independent musicians like myself. So, should I just hang up this whole bass playing thing now? So, I'm going to be honest. I've always been really interested in technology, and I tend to integrate it into my life in a pretty big way. But as a musician, I have to admit, I'm a little suspicious about this whole AI thing, and I am really remorseful about the effect that it could have on our culture and society. Because I think that there's something that makes us a better human being when we learn how to play an instrument and dig deeply into the art of performing music. If we're programming a DAW to play back the instrument in a way that's just as good or maybe even better than a human, I think we're losing something important in our humanity. I also think that there's something that makes our art rich and deep when we collaborate with other human beings. When our only collaborative partner is a MIDI track or a computer, I think we lose some depth to our art. And I think it would be really sad to lose these very human pieces of music. There's nothing stopping me from having these beliefs about music, and there's nothing stopping me from making music in the way that I want to make it. But the reality is that AI in music is not going away. In fact, it's probably only going to get more dominant. So if I want to have a career in music, how do I move forward? Well, I think the answer is we need to create our own identity in music, and we need to go deeper into what makes that music a reflection of our own decisions, beliefs, curiosity, and quirks. That's what's going to make our music unique. That's what's going to make our music stand out from AI generated music. Chasing the norm in any sort of established sound is going to be a lost cause. AI will be able to duplicate that without a doubt, but you are the only person who's going to have those very human decisions about life and art that's going to allow you to create something that only you could create. Now, being a jazz musician, I do want to point out that Logic Sessions musicians can only create tracks in popular styles. I don't know if I should feel good about that or be slightly insulted. There are no Logic Session musicians creating jazz tracks. The technology can't create the same sort of output that comes from collective improvisation. At least not yet. I imagine that is coming though. So we can't do the same thing artistically for the rest of our lives. Say we find a sound or approach that resonates with a large amount of people. It's uniquely our own, and AI just can't imitate it. Well, we're going to use that approach for a while. We're going to put out a lot of music. That's going to train the AI to replicate it. And before you know it, the AI is going to be able to create something that sounds a little bit like you. So we need to be constantly evolving and exploring new ways to take our artistic identity in new and unique directions. But let's stop for a minute here and be realistic. AI in music doesn't have to be our enemy. We can use it to our advantage. Take Logic Session musicians. These can serve as great sources of inspiration. If you're stuck on a keyboard part, a drum part, a bass line, you could ask Logic Session musicians to play it over your chord progression and get some ideas. Doesn't mean you have to do exactly what they did, but it could be a launching point to get you past that creative roadblock. And when we're talking about digging deeply into your own personality, hey, maybe you're a person that really embraces technology in your music. If you do, then maybe you should be using AI as part of your creative process. Maybe in this case, taking opportunities to collaborate with AI and then expand on it could be part of your musical voice. At the end of the day, Logic Session musicians are going to enable a whole generation of singer-songwriters and independent musicians to turn out endless amounts of tracks. In today's music industry, where we have streaming and constant consumption, this could be a huge advantage, or maybe not. I have used Logic Session Drummer on many of the videos that I've created, and I've found a number of times that they've been flagged specifically by TikTok as copyright violations. In every case on those videos, the session drummer was the only instrument there that I did not play myself. Everything else was layering of basses. So I'm assuming that that copyright violation had been triggered because someone else used that same Logic Session drummer to create a part. The AI in TikTok heard that drum beat and assumed that I had used that track right there. I'm assuming that as more people use these keyboard session musicians, bass session musicians, that problem's going to become more frequent. Now, TikTok and other social media may find ways around it. Their system might get smarter, but it's something to be aware of. And boy, that's a whole nother topic that we should get into at some point. So, am I still going to be able to play this bass after AI steals all my gigs? I don't know, but the reality is that we are all going to need to come to terms with the effect that AI is going to have upon the music industry. I think I just scratched the surface. No, I know I just scratched the surface in this video. There's so much more happening out there. But I need you to tell me, what's your opinion on AI in music? Are you going to be using it? Do you think it's destructive to our creative journey? Let me know down in the comments. This is a fascinating conversation to have, and I'd really love to hear from you. And of course, if you're enjoying the conversation, the bass, the music, please hit subscribe, join me on the channel, turn on notifications so you get everything in the future. Can't wait to hear your thoughts, folks. I'll see you soon.